final control.
Well, Lisa said they're on the ground for us. Let's discuss what is going on. I'm joined by the Syrian columnist and Chatham House fellow, Hyde. Thank you so much for being here on the programme with us. We'll talk about the strategic situation and the look of Aleppo in terms of falling into Syrian forces' hands in a moment. But you have family there in the east of the city, haven't you? Just tell me about that and the contact you have with them.
Well, I have a sister there who lives there with her family, and for months now, since around mid-July, they didn't receive aid. There's no fuel. It's quite cold there. All hospitals are out of service because the regime and Russia attacked them. Basically, there's no place to go to. People are running out of food, and you can imagine with all the airstrikes and the shelling that is happening on a daily basis, the number of shelling is just insane.
Yes, I mean, the UN were talking about this earlier today, just the ferocity of the last couple of weeks in terms of the intensity of the shelling that you describe. I described it as the end game for Aleppo earlier. Is that where we are, do you think?
In Aleppo, you mean?
Yes.
It could be, but I think even with what's happening right now, that the fighting will not continue until the end. There are talks now about a deal that could allow rebels and those who don't want to stay in Aleppo out, and I think that will be most likely the end of it. But the situation is quite bad, and I don't know for how long people there can survive.
The siege has been going on for 4 years. Why have we seen the shift we have in the last month?
No, the siege on Aleppo only started mid-July, and the problem is that opposition groups were not able to break the siege. They tried in mid-August, they were not able to break the siege, and starvation has been a main tactic against civilians there. And this is why now the situation after 4 months, people are running out of everything basically.
But the push that we've seen from the Syrian forces, how do you explain it? Is it the Russian involvement? Is it the distraction of the American election? What is your analysis of what we've seen on the ground?
I think it's a mix of these two elements plus others, because you have militias that are backed by Iran, who are the ones leading the fighting inside Syria. So you have foreign fighters inside Aleppo, and then you have the airstrikes, the Russian airstrikes, but also you have less support coming from opposition backers to those who are in Aleppo or in the countryside of Aleppo, and then you have also infighting among rebel groups inside Aleppo, which helped the regime to achieve this.
I was reading earlier concern about journalists in the east of the city, of doctors in the east of the city, what actually happens to them if and when the city actually falls completely. How concerned are you by those caught up when you hear the Syrian government talk about those people in the city as terrorists?
True, and I think in the past few days some people were able to flee to the regime-held area side of Aleppo, and most of those who crossed to that side were detained, and some of them were killed immediately. So that indicates the fate that most of the people, especially civilians, are waiting for if and when Aleppo falls.
President Assad was talking about it in a newspaper interview today. He says it would be a big step towards ending the war if Aleppo falls. Is he right, do you think?
I don't think so, for many reasons. One of them is that the regime controls less than 25% of the country. So you can imagine how long that might take for him to be able to control the rest of the country. You have more than 150,000 rebel fighters across the country fighting, and then you have strong opponents for the regime, not only regionally but also internationally, who will do whatever it takes in order not to allow Assad to win.
And strategically, you have the hookup of Syria, of Russia, of Iran. Do you think that is short-term or will live longer in terms of the next few years in the region?
I think it will be a short-term coalition, because Iran and Russia, they have completely different agendas for the Syrian country. They both agree that they should save Assad, but they disagree on what should happen later on. And sooner or later, these different agendas will basically clash.
Well, Hyde, thank you so much for coming in and providing us that analysis. Thanks so much for your time.